Good day, everyone. Welcome to our next lesson, the nature and the characteristic of research. So last time we discussed about the inquiry-based and some philosophical ideas that would help us in forming our researches. So ngayon, we're going to discover more of what is research about. So ngayon, we will tackle different definitions from different authors and about their claims on how they elaborate research. So para sa kanila, ano ang research? So let's start with Sanchez. So according to Sanchez, research is a continuous discovery and exploration of the unknown, an investigation of new facts leading to discovery of new ideas, new methods, or improvements. So dito, let's look on the different terminologies Sanchez used, We have here continuous discovery. So, totoo, research is a continuous discovery. So, that's the reason why we have easier things than before. We have lots of discoveries that made our life easier. Kasi, meron tayong mga tao who do not stop from exploring, who do not stop from making things and forming solutions that would let our life be easier to live. It's a continuous discovery. And it's also an exploration of the unknown. When we say exploration of the unknown, anything that has not seen, not touched, nor felt is discovered through research. So it's also an investigation of the new facts that leads to the discovery. Ang research, it allows us to investigate new facts. So from this specific facts, ano pa ang mag-create natin na discovery out from this? And also, according to Parel, research is a systematic study or investigation of something for the purpose of answering questions posed by the researcher. So sa research, as I have told you from the last lesson, you formulate your own question and you look for answers out from that formulated questions. So meaning, gagawa ka ng questions mo and you look for answers and you look for steps in order to answer your made questions. So dito, the key word that is used by Parel is a systematic study. So we say systematic, research follows step-by-step procedures. And also, according to Sevilla, research is searching for a theory, testing for a theory, and for solving a problem. So ang research, it allows us to formulate different theories and to use theories for solving our different problems. Example, ano ba ang theory? A theory in scientific definition, it is a proposed hypothesis of a specific person studying about something that might be useful in a specific field or phenomena. A theory is something that is needed to be proven. So, para maging totoo ang isang theory, kailangan mo na siyang i-prove. That's theory. And ngayon, let's talk about the different characteristics of research. So, ang research, meron din siyang different characteristics. So, one of this is accuracy. Ito yung mga character ng research so that magiging guide mo ito siya for you to make a good research output. So, first characteristic that we have to consider in making research is the accuracy. So, accuracy talks about the correct and accurate data. So, kailangan, when you make research, kailangan all the things or all the information that you use inside that research are all correct and accurate data. Bakit kailangan sila correct? Is because if you don't use correct data in your research, maaari rin maging null ang iyong result, Maaring walang basis, magiging walang basihan ang isang result ng isang study, or it could result to a misleading information. So sa research natin, it is really important that we have to cite our bibliography well, Ang mga footnotes and ang mga information that we use and we utilize from the different authors, kailangan we utilize them properly and must be stipulated at the back of your research. Diba sa research, sa mga books, let's say example for the books. Ang mga books, meron tayong sa likod, bibliography or the references. So, this shows that saan kumuha ng idea ang author ng research, Anong principles, anong theory, anong concept ang ginamit ng isang researcher to make claim doon sa research niya. So, kailangan you have to use this well. Kasi sometimes, the accuracy and the making of the research itself will rely doon sa mga connected information kung saan siya kumuha ng kanyang mga ideas and concepts. No? Sometimes, the goodness of the research will rely kung saan mo siya kinuha. The second one is objectiveness. Objectiveness refers to on how you deal with facts, no? Kailangan ang research mo, you have to be more of factual, not opinionated. Kasi ano bang differences ng opinion at saka fact? Now, when you say a fact is a universal truth. No, kailangan ang gagamitin mo sa research is a universal truth. So, kung you say universal truth, it is accepted by the majority. No, hindi siya masyadong opinionated. Kasi when you say opinionated or opinion comes from a mere perception. The opinion, it could be affected by your feelings. It could be affected by the peers. That's why you say these things and you say those things. Number 3 characteristic is the timeliness. So, kailangan kapag gagawa ka rin ng research, dapat timely rin, no? All the information that you use are fresh, new, and interesting to the present society. Kailangan, ang gagawin mong research topic or gagawa ka ng solution to a problem, hindi yung problem na i-address mo way back mga 1880s pa. No? Kailangan you have to work on a topic or a research that is timely or useful in our daily basis. O pwede siyang gamitin in our daily life. No? Example, gagawa ka ng study. Example, you want to trace the reason why there are students who do not usually join virtual classes. So, pwede yung gawing research, no? The reasons why students get late in virtual classes or cannot attend virtual classes. So, it's timely, it's fresh. Kailangan ganun din ang research. And also, one characteristic of a good research is relevance. So, ano ang relevance? Relevance is an instrumental in improving society or in the solving problems affecting the lives of the people. So, when you say relevance, it's relevant, no? It is relevant to the lives of the people. So, kailangan pumili ka ng topic na masyadong interesting, no? Masyado siyang timely, masyado siyang importante sa life of the people. So, one characteristic of a good research also is kailangan you also have the clarity. Clarity talks about the simplicity, how direct, concise, and correct the language you use in your research. Make research also, you have to consider the readers. No? Kailangan you have also to consider the readers because not everybody who reads your research are people who are highly educated. No? Sometimes, in forming your research, you also have to consider the use of your words. Kailangan yung mga terminologies that you use are properly cited or properly elaborated doon sa definition of terms. Or if maybe, kung pwede, no, you could use simple words in forming your composition so that the readers could easily understand. So another characteristic is systematic. When you say systematic, from the word itself, systematic, it's something comes with a process, no? Systematic must take place in an organized or orderly manner. So it's an organized and orderly manner. So kailangan, before you make research, you have to first identify the step 1, and then identify the step 2, identify the step 3. That's why in research, we have different phases. It's from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. So first, you identify the problem, and then you make a hypothesis, and then you make an introduction, and then bago ka pumunta to other processes. And also, one good characteristic of a research is the replicability. So replicability talks about how a research is answerable. So kailangan, if gagawa ka ng research study, kailangan din siyang answerable, no? You can search for factual resources. It is answerable by facts. Makukuha mo lang ang result. Kasi kapag gagawa ka ng research that medyo malabo yung result, parang, ay, masyadong complicated yung research. So it's not a good research at all. Also, replicability talks about the ability of the researcher to arrive at a valid conclusion or result. So, of course, If answerable ang research mo, you can arrive to a valid and conclusive result. So one good factor also of a good research is it is empirical. So when you say empirical, it is based on a direct experiences or observation alone by the researcher. So kailangan a researcher will have a rigid discovery, a rigid experience doon sa kanyang problem and how that researcher arrived a specific result. So also, a research must also be a cyclical. So when say cyclical, it's a cycle, no? When you start with a problem, kailangan you also end with a problem. So you start with questions, and after you get results from your questions or answers to your questions, you may formulate another questions. So it could be again another good start for another research. Also, a good research is critical. So when you say critical, researchers is precise on his interpretation, whether to have significant or insignificant result. So kailangan, if you're a researcher, you must be critical on your study. So kailangan, you have to be accurate on your interpretation kung magagamit mo siya or hindi siya magagamit. Does the result have a significant result or it does not contain any significant result? Also, it has to be analytical. So analytical, a research requires a plan. Of course, a research requires a plan, demands a clear statement of the problem, demands with the main problem, and through sub-problems, it seeks directions through appropriate hypotheses and deals with facts and their meaning. Assess your problem based for sub-problems. When say sub-problems, these are, say, di ba sa question, sa statement of a problem, it is imposed through a question. So from a specific question, you ask small details from that question to arrive a very technical result, no? To arrive from a minimal based from a big picture of your problem. And also, a research must be logical. You say logical, it is conducted based on a valid procedures and principles. Of course, kailangan it must go through valid procedures. So ngayon, let's talk about the purpose of research, no? The purpose and the importance of research. So why do we conduct research at all? Research is a vehicle for mobility, a contribution towards attainment of national goals. Dahil kay research, we're moving, no? We're moving towards betterment. We're moving towards improvement, no? Nang dahil kay research, maraming nadidiscover na mga bagay. We arrive from a different sets of materials that we use. We arrive from different ideas that we could use for education, for technology, for clothing, for food, and for everything. No. Also, research explains an issue or controversy. No. See, research it also allows us to explain a specific idea, specific topic, specific issue, or a particular thing na pinag-uusapan ng mundo, no? Ini-explain niya. So research advances human knowledge and satisfies curiosity. So di ba? Yung mga taong very curious about the world, so research yung gamot para sa kanila, no? It makes them satisfied. So research also improves instructions and students' achievements. So sa pamamagitan ng research, we also arrive from different learning strategies, no? Different methods that a teacher could use and administration could use to improve learning and achievements of students. So also research improves quality of life, of course, mainly. Research satisfies man's needs. Of course, it satisfies man's needs. Also, research reduces the burden of work. Kasi we were able to develop machines, we were able to develop materials that we have different inventions. May mga robot. So these robots are examples or products of researches. So these are the major types of research. I will not define them individually here because they have their own definition on the next slide. So descriptive, analytical, applied, basic research, qualitative, quantitative, conceptual, and non-scientific methods. So to name the few, so descriptive is a research type which surveys and find a fact inquiries or of different kinds, no? The purpose is the description of the state of the affair as it exists in present. Researchers has no control over variables. So itong descriptive, this type of research merely describe the characteristic or why this thing exists. No? It only describes. From the word itself, descriptive. So pangalawa, ito, subdivision ng descriptive research is survey research, the case study, correlational, comparative study. So later you will know all of them. So analytical research also involves in-depth, this is also a type of research that involves in-depth study and evaluation of available information and in an attempt to explain complex phenomenon. So analytical, so it is a research that explains complex phenomenon. The researcher has to use facts or information already available and analyze these to make a critical evaluation of the material. So from the existing facts, so the researcher's task is to analyze these facts to explain or to analyze a specific complex phenomena, to evaluate a material. So ito naman, subdivisions of analytical research are historical research, philosophical research, research synthesis, meta-analysis. So example ng historical research is the implication of the works of Rizal. No? Ano mga implication of the works of Rizal? You assess whether who has the best administration. Ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. So that's historical. You talk about the past issues that could have a specific or important implication in the present world or the present situation. So applied research, or also known as action research, ito common research talaga siya, no? It's a research for finding a solution to an immediate problem. Example, the school is experiencing a massive numbers of students who do not attend virtual classes. So out from this problem, you create a research that will immediately action to the problem itself. So you seek for the reasons bakit hindi sila nag-a-attend. So research aim to find social or political trends that may affect in a particular institution, or as an example of applied research. So the subtypes of applied research are marketing research, evaluation research. So common itong applied or action research sa mga business, no? Example, a business industry is experiencing a massive loss of selling their products. So ano ngayon ang magiging solution nila to gain the spot of hitting or making the consumer buy their products? So ganyan. So ito naman is another example of research, the basic, pure, or fundamental research. So ito, ang concern lang ng research na ito is with the generalization and with the formulation of the theory. So itong research na to, it formalizes theories. No? Natural phenomena and mathematics are examples of basic researches. For example, how to arrive a simple formula in a simple solution-oriented, or gagawa ka ng formula ng isang problem na in which you can arrive to an answer without so much solutions. So those are examples of fundamental research. So ito, common talaga itong type ng research, no? Ang qualitative saka quantitative. So let's talk about quantitative. So look for the word quantity. So when you say quantity, so quantity talks about measurement or measurement of quality or amount. So it talks about the amount. So usually kapag quantitative ang research, a survey, no? Kung ano ang majority na sinasabi ng tao, no? So it involves weighing, measuring. Yeah, these are examples of quantitative research. So soon malalaman nyo rin yan. So ito naman, conceptual or experimental research. It is related to some abstract idea or a theory to develop a new concept to reinterpret existing ones, attempt to establish cause and effect relationships. Usually, we do experimental in our science classes, no? Historical research nga utilizes historical sources, study events of the past, conclusion-oriented, picking a problem, redesigned, inquiry, conceptualizing, decision-oriented. For the need for a decision maker, researchers cannot embark upon researches in his own inclination. Example, operations research. So let's go to the data sources. So itong data sources, we'll talk about where do you get your information. No? That is very important. Saan ninyo kinukuha ang mga information na ginagamit ninyo sa research? Are those informations factual? Are those information timely? Nagagamit pa ba sila until now? Do they exist until now? So sa information sources or the way we get information, we have two things, no? The primary source and the secondary source. So this is a common topic, no, that we encounter in your previous lessons. So when you say a primary source is an original object, no? When you say primary source, it is an original object or ikaw yung first hand ng information. So example, nakakita ka ng isang event. Example, may binaril. Saka ikaw yung naka-video ka ng binaril. So in the process of investigation, ikaw yung first-hand information. Ikaw yung original source of the information. So ikaw yung primary source. Tapos, example, i-interviewin ka ng isang newscaster kung anong nangyari. So si newscaster, siya na ngayon ang nagiging secondary source. So let's go to the examples of primary sources. So example of a primary source are diaries and journals. No? Ito si Anne Frank. This is an example of si Anne Frank kasi sumulat siya ng diary noon way back World War II. So she kept her diary, her journal, the years before she died in a concentration camp from a Holocaust, no, during World War II, and published. And her diary was published as the Diary of Anne Frank. So this is a historical diary. Since inexplain dito ni Anne Frank kung ano ang mga nangyari and what are the reasons why they are trapped in a concentration camp. So this is a primary source. Examples also of primary source are autobiographies. No? Mga autobiographies are examples of primary source. It's where you write a storybook about yourself. No? Example is Nelson Mandela wrote an autobiography about events in his life called Long Walk to Freedom. So this is an example of a primary source. Another examples of primary sources are the following. So ito mga historical documents such as Declaration of Independence for the Constitutions are primary source documents. They were drafted and signed. So these are other examples of primary sources. The birth certificates, government records, court documents, military records, tax records, census records, and arts. Also, arts are examples of primary sources. So ano naman ang secondary source? Secondary source is a source written or a source that is something written about a primary source. So ito na yung source out from a primary source. Secondary source are written after the fact. No, that is at a later date. So usually the author of a secondary source will have studied the primary source or of a historical period or event and will then interpret the evidences found in these sources. So example, when you write for your life story for Charo in MMK, and then Charo, the ABS-CBN production would make a story out from your letter. So yung movie nila, that's already a secondary source of your personal life. Yeah. Secondary source. So you think about this. If I tell you something, I am the primary source. If you tell something else, what I told you, you are the secondary source. So example, yeah, if nagsalita naman itong sinabihan mo to other person, So, tertiary source na siya. Tertiary source na siya, no? Secondary source materials can be articles in newspapers, magazines, books or articles found that evaluate or criticize someone else's original research. So usually, itong mga books na ginagamit natin from school, these are examples of secondary sources because they examine and describe specific ideas coming from the primary source. Examples of primary sources are almanacs, encyclopedias, history books, and etc. are examples of secondary sources because they were written after these events occurred. So, ano naman ang mga approaches na gagamitin natin kay research? Now, when we say approaches, how we attack our research. Ano ang approach na gagamitin natin sa kanya? So, ngayon, meron tayong scientific or positive approach. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng positive or scientific approach? So, very common, scientific approach. The data gathered techniques appropriate for this approach are structured interviews, questionnaires, and observational checklists. Kasi sa approach ng research, ito na yung how do you gather information that will answer your questions or that will prove your hypothesis, no? This one. So, kapag scientific ang gagamitin, we make use of structured interviews. You ask the respondents, you do interviews, or else you do questionnaires. So, bibigyan mo sila ng papel, let them check or through a checklist and ganyan. And also, we make use of a naturalistic approach. Ano naman ang naturalistic approach? This research approach directs you to deal with the qualitative data that speak of how people behave towards their surrounding. These are non-numerical data that express truth about the way people perceive or understand the world. Example, you want to know bakit nagbe-behave ang mga manubo ng ganyan, no? Bakit sila nangihingi kahit saan? So, you want to trace the reason. So, example, ganyan. So, you are a researcher and then pwede kang gumamit ng approach na naturalistic wherein pwede kang mag-immerse doon sa community ng manubo, no? Or a specific group para maintindihan mo ang kanilang culture so that you can also express or explain bakit nangyayari ang mga ganitong instances. So, pwede kang mag-adapt, no? You go towards their surrounding. So, this is a non-numerical data. Bakit hindi siya numerical? Kasi hindi ka nagtatali. No? You don't count on what is the majority said. No? Hindi ka nagka-count kung anong sinasabi ng majority. Wherein, you are just going to observe kung ano ang nangyayari sa surrounding and then you express them in a particular composition. This type of approach is applicable sa qualitative type of research. The third one is the triangulation approach. So, actually, triangulation approach is a combination or it's a mixed match of both naturalistic and scientific. So, in this case, you are free to gather and analyze data using multiple methods. You are free to use any methods you want, allowing you to combine or mix up research approaches, research types, data gathering, and data analysis. No? Ikaw yung may hawak kung anong type ng research ang pwede mong gawin. Kasi meron tayong mga research that are quantitative, qualitative type of data, that are qualitative, quantitative type of data. So, merong mga ganun. So, it could be experimental at the same time. It could also be a case study. So, pwede siyang ganyan, no? So, yun na. That ends our discussion about the meaning of research and the nature of the research. So I hope you learned something about this discussion. And if you have comments, you have clarifications, you are free to comment down below those questions so that I can give another shot to answer your queries. Thank you and have a safe day.